Okay, go ahead.
All right. Good day, everyone. This is Charles with the Exodus Logistics Learning Center. Today is Sunday, April 23rd, 2023. It is our Sunday edition of our Dispatcher 101 training for beginners. This is the fourth week. As you know, we have trainings every second and fourth week of each month. Our Zoom trainings, we have our live Zoom trainings, we have every second and fourth week of each month. And if you are on our homepage of the website, let me share the screen. This is the homepage of our website, and we're doing a lot of artificial AI intelligent upgrades to our website. We're getting in the more of the presence of Google and things of that nature. So it's going to be a little bit more technologically advanced, if you will. But this is the homepage of our website. So on the homepage, you notice it's highlighted blue under Dispatcher 101 for you guys, because you're Dispatcher 101 students. The very first, if you hover your mouse over any one of the headers, you'll see the different links under it. So under Dispatcher, you'll see the very first one is called Live Zoom Training Schedule. So if you click that, it takes you to this page here. If you've logged in, this is mainly for those who are going to be listening in on the recording, who are watching this on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube channels, and who are not members, but who are curious of how to get into our Zoom trainings. For those of you who are actually tuned into the Zoom right now with me, obviously you know how to do it, right? Because you're here, right? So, but this is our Zoom page, and we will enhance this a little bit later on, but if you scroll down to where it says, you can either scroll completely down to the calendar, or you can click the go to our Zoom calendar button, and the page anchors down to that location, okay? And for this month, April, today is the 23rd, so we're gonna have one today. It's 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, whatever time zone you're in. If you're Central, it's 10 a.m. If you're Mountain, it's 9 a.m. And if you're Pacific, it is 8 a.m. Your time, right? So you wanna sync your time zones with my time zone as it compares to. So as you go from the eastern side of the country to the western side of the country, the time zones go down by 1 hour. From west to east, they go up by 1 hour, okay? So today is 11 a.m. Well, technically 11:03, but Eastern Standard Time, okay? Our next one will be Wednesday at 6 p.m. and then our next one will be Saturday at noon Eastern Standard Time. Coincidentally, this Wednesday, I will be doing a live studio recording. We have a local Hampton Roads show in the Hampton Roads, Virginia area. So I'll be in the studio doing a taping of the Exodus Logistics Learning Center, talking about what services we provide, you know, as far as trainings for dispatcher, freight broker, and things of that nature, and coming soon type of events. We recently done a commercial. It will be advertising on the local stations, Channel 10 and Fox 43, for the period of 3 months. So I sent it to several people. I think LaDonna, you may have gotten a copy of it. But this is the Zoom training schedule to get access to the Zoom trainings. Now up here, Sunday at 11, Wednesday at 6, and Saturday at noon, if you click the join now, it'll have you do the meeting ID and passcode. You can click actually any of these join now buttons. They are exactly the same links to get you to the exact same Zoom meeting, okay? So I wanted to be clear, because some people say, well, I clicked Wednesdays, but I wanted to come to Sundays. Well, all three buttons are the same link, okay, to get you to this. And all 3 days have the same meeting ID and passcode to actually access the Zoom training, okay? So that's for that. Also, if you are new and you're tuned in today live in the Zoom, after you get past these 3 price points, the training materials kit, the one-day seminar, and the ongoing training, coincidentally, is 50% off until June 1st. okay, of this year through Mother's Day, 50% off of these prices. So 50% off of this and 50% off, that's the single member, and 50% off of the two people, okay? So half of those prices. Promo code is right here. You know, I'm pretty much getting the house cleaning stuff out the way first before we get into the training, right? So those are the 3 price points. So now for you new people who came in, when you enroll, you should have gotten a receipt of your purchase. And in that receipt should have been a PDF or a download, right? Which will take you to this page right here, right? It'll take you to the instructions on how to set up your email and password to get approved to get into the back office portal, right? To get into the members portal where all the resources and all the modules and things like that are located. If you did not get that, please let me know so I can send you, because all it is this. I'm going to go and show you literally what it is and share my screen. Okay. Let me share the screen. And let me know if you can see the screen with the Word document. Yes. So when you purchase, you get a email saying, hey, welcome, thank you for your purchase. We appreciate that you chose us as your premier training provider, yada, 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 right? Please follow these steps, right? And then the email, the PDF will have these instructions in here, the members portal access. There's a welcome video. If you click this blue welcome video link, that is a video, right? It'll take you to a YouTube video saying, hey, welcome. Again, we appreciate you joining us. The typical things when you join new programs, they'll give you like a welcoming, hey, thanks for your purchase. We appreciate you. The first step is right here. Step 1, initial login setup. That is, if you click that blue line sentence there, that is a hyperlink. It takes you to the page that I just showed you, which I'm going to go back to it on the website. Okay. This page here, the hyperlink takes you to this page so that you can log in or sign up. If you're here for the first time, you're going to have to log in. I'm sorry, you have to sign up. I apologize. So it'll tell you to sign up, and it takes you to this page right here. If you click that login and sign up, it'll take you here. By default, okay, it says log in at the top. This is assuming that someone has already created an email and password. So, but under it in red letters, it says to set up your members portal email and password, click sign up. And that's typically for those new people, you new guys who just coming in for the first time, okay? So you'll click, once you click sign up, this is going to change. The default login is going to change to sign up. So now you're in the correct area if you are brand new and you just enrolled in our ongoing online training and you're trying to set up your email and password to get access to the members portal. So from here, you just put in an email and a password, check that you're not a robot, and hit submit, right? Most individuals who enrolled use the same email that they paid for the course with. If you don't want to do that, that's fine, but please let us know what different email that you're going to use so that we'll know it's you. We'll be able to notate that, because we're going by the purchase email that we get of the purchase, and whatever email that shows, that's the one we're expecting to see. But if you have a different one, let's say you enrolled with a PayPal account and that was your personal email that was tied to your PayPal account, but you want to use a business email like info@abclogistics.com or whatever, right? So please tell us so that we can notate it. So when we see people, because a lot of people submit for members portal access to be able to get to the back office and start doing the self-paced courses. But we can't let you in until we verify who you are, right? So once you do that, you just go through the process and then go from there, right? You sign in, right? So let me sign in mine first of all. And do I remember my own password? That would be nice, right? Check the I am not a robot, fire hydrant, yada, yada, yada. So once you do that and you submit it, then you should be able to log into the portal and go from there. Let me remove this one first and put one in here that's the correct one. And I don't see any fire hydrants. I hate doing these things because I get them wrong the first time, and I don't see any. So there we go, bicycles. Okay, here we go. So after you do that, you'll come to the back office area. Ugh, these things are crazy. Look, I'm gonna be here all day trying to get past my own login things, right? Isn't that crazy? But once you get that, you'll be able to, oh geez, what in the world? You'll be able to access the back office. Okay, and it'll take you to the members portal. And let me double check mine first before I even continue here. Let's go here and go there. And let me double check mine real quick. Let me close this. And while I'm doing that, again, if you have a different email that you want to use other than the one that you signed up with, just let us know and we'll make sure we notate that. And let me verify mine. I'm in the back of my members. Okay, there we go. So I see it now. All right, so let's resume the share. Let's go back to it. And let's go back to the members portal. So now once you are approved, oh yes, while I'm speaking to, if you have any questions as I'm on certain areas on the screen that you want to get clarity on, please raise your hand, ask the questions so we can, unmute yourself and things like that. I will, I'm very interactive. I want to make sure that you understand the process. Okay. So after you've gotten approved, when you submitted your email and password, it takes you to this area right here. Can everybody see that screen? Okay, this is the Dispatcher 101 members portal main menu area, right? So now our trainings are live Zoom trainings as well as self-paced modules. And your enrollment gets you 90 days access for that, right? Self-paced for 90 days, as well as the interactive Zoom trainings for 90 days, every second and fourth week in each month for those nights. So you figure if 90 days is 3 months. We do live Zoom trainings every second and fourth week of each month, 3 days in those weeks. So that's 2 weeks, 3 times a week. So that's 6. So 6 times 3, 18. You'll have 18 live Zoom trainings in that 90 days, and then you'll have 90 days of the self-paced course. Okay, so I think that's pretty fair, don't you think, for content and self-paced trainings? And if you have any questions, things of that nature. So now you're here as a student. Now it'll say start here, and someone asked, where are the ebooks? Well, if you come here, you have an orientation right here. Let's click that for a second. There's an orientation video saying, hey, once again, we always thank you. Thank you for choosing us, because you could have chosen anyone else, right? You didn't have to choose us for whatever reason you chose us. We may be more transparent. We may do whatever, for whatever reason. I don't want to say anything, but for whatever reason, you chose us, and we appreciate that. So we got an orientation video expressing that once again, and then we tell you what to look forward to throughout the course of the self-paced training in the orientation video. What are your next steps and things like that? And if you scroll down, here are your ebooks, and they have been updated since December of last year. Dispatcher 101 ebook. Are you under a load, looking for a load? The Dispatcher 101 is an overview. It's about 40 pages ebook, but it's content. You're going to learn a lot in that. Okay. And are you under a load, looking for a load, right? Ada, this live Zoom training is being recorded, And if you are a member of our course, you have access to the recording. You don't have to record it yourself. I saw you did a request there. So are you under a load or looking for a load is dealing with the truck driver as a dispatcher. You want to see if they're under a load or if there is freight on their trailer and they have to deliver and they're looking for something after that, or are they looking for a load? Is their trailer empty, right? And you want to find them something now. So it talks about the strategies in either case as it relates to you, the dispatcher, communicating with your truck driver or with a potential truck driver, because when it says, are you under a load or looking for a load, they're not necessarily yours yet. You are trying to get them as a carrier for you to dispatch for, okay? And then carrier, the third ebook is carrier packets and rate confirmation. Those are the two broker level paperwork that you're going to be dealing with as a dispatcher, as a freight dispatcher, booking loads or booking freight or finding cargo for your drivers. When you deal with freight brokers who are going to mainly be dealing with as a dispatcher, there are two types of documents that you deal with overall with a freight broker and yourself, the dispatcher. When you have a truck driver that you call a freight broker for, with whom that truck driver is not already an approved carrier or set up with that brokerage, then you have to do what's called a carrier packet, okay? You have to fill out a carrier packet. And that is just the technical name for it is called a broker carrier agreement. You're just the person who is doing the administrative side by getting your carrier, your truck driver, set up with that brokerage with whom they are not already set up with through the contract broker carrier agreement. And we have all these documents, the templates, the forms, where you can see what they look like, understand what they are in order to identify them when you see them, right? I'm just giving you a high level right now, right? The second document for a broker relationship with a dispatcher in regards to you finding freight for your carriers is rate confirmations. So the carrier packets gets your carriers, your truck drivers, your owner operators set up and approved with a specific brokerage, right? The rate confirmation is when you're trying to book specific loads for that carrier at that point in time. Let's say you're looking at a specific load on a specific load board that you found for your specific carrier, and you're trying to book it with that specific broker, right? Your carrier's not set up with that brokerage yet. So you've done the broker carrier or carrier packet portion already. You sent all the necessary documents that's needed there. Now the broker is going to say, hey, your carrier has been approved by us. Let's send over the rate confirmation to confirm the rate on this specific load that you called us about. That is what a rate confirmation or a load confirmation is. You're calling about a specific load for that brokerage that you just set your carrier up with. And now you're signing that. Once you sign that, either your carrier signs it or you sign it on their behalf and send it back to the broker. Now you've booked that load, and now your carrier is responsible for driving to that shipper location to pick that freight up when it's scheduled to be picked up, transporting it safely to the receiver location when it's scheduled to be delivered, and being paid for that process. And you, the dispatcher, would be paid for setting that process up for them, okay? So, and all that's explained in the ebooks, okay? And then we have a glossary of basic terms. Now, as this course continues to grow and progress over time, obviously we will be updating the ebooks and keeping them current with the times, right? Because we wouldn't do our job as a logistics learning center if we did not do that, right? Same thing with the ebooks. We add more terms to the glossary so that you can get all the terms, because you're going to hear terms in your dispatching journey, especially if you're new, that you're not going to have a clue what they are, right? So it is our job to recognize that, and partly it is your job to bring it to our attention so that we can tell you what it is and potentially add it to the glossary so we can broaden the scope of the glossary to give more terms so that you will become a more well-rounded dispatcher, because now you have all the terminology that you need defined with examples so that you can be a better dispatcher. How much more marketable would that make you in the eyes of a truck driver. If they see that you actually know what you're talking about, right? So this is all under the first column in the main menu, which is the Start Here column, right? And then we get into the business. I'm not going to click each one. We get into the business setup one. So as a dispatching company, you first need to well, I would say it's recommended. I won't say you first need, you don't need to, but it's recommended that you want to have your business in place first prior to starting dispatching for the carriers, right? It just makes sense that you want to do it the right way. You want to be a business in the act of doing business with another business person, because a truck driver, an owner operator, a carrier is a business. They have a trucking company. They have an authority. They have a W-9 that shows their company, their EIN and things like that. So you need to be parallel with that. You also need to be a business. In the business setup part, we talk about types of businesses. How do you first structure your company? What name did you come up with? What name do you suggest for yourself, right? Here's some advice I'd like to give you, right? If you are only going to be dispatching long term, right, then you have the option to have the name dispatch or dispatching or dispatcher in your business name. Okay. If you plan to scale your company and introduce other types of transportation ideologies like trucking, like freight brokering or anything else, then I would suggest to create a name that is more universal, like logistics, right? ABC or XYZ logistics, as opposed to ABC or XYZ dispatching. Because if you say XYZ dispatching and then you decide to create a trucking company or form a freight brokerage, now you have to circle back and change the name. You understand? But if you start off with a universal name, ABC Logistics, XYZ Logistics, and you're dispatching under that logistics name, but then you decide to form a freight brokerage, logistics covers that. If you decide to form a trucking company, logistics covers that, right? Linda B, have your hand raised. If you can kindly unmute yourself, please.
Hey, Charles, I think she's having audio issues right now.
Okay. Okay, thank you, LaDonna. So Linda B, if you are having audio issues and it appears to be, if you can type your question in the chat, we can definitely get to it as well. Okay, so and so I'll move on from there. So so the name is important, right? Because you're projecting future behavior, if you will. If you want to stay the same as a dispatcher, you never want to scale to anything else, then it's perfectly fine to have dispatcher. Now, some people say, well, can I put my name and put a DBA under it, right? DBA, let's say dispatching DBA, trucking DBA, freight broker. You can, but it's suggested to create those entities separate, right? So Linda B, you had your hand up again.
Yes, sir. I apologize. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am, I can. Yes.
And thank you, LaDonna. You're always coming in clutch. I love that.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, thank you. And yes, sir. Good morning, everybody. I came in a little bit late. That was a perfect segue when you were talking about the name, Mr. Charles, because I regret that I didn't use logistics instead of dispatching, because the more I get involved, the more I see things that I can offer. So I would definitely tailgate on what he said about that. Please think about it when you're setting up your LLC. But my question, Mr. Charles, is is a topic from last class. And I just wanted to ask you, did I understand correctly, if we want to get dedicated lanes, or is it possible for us to contact the shipper on behalf of our carrier if we're trying to get contracts, or is that borderline broker?
So there is a thin line in that process. You technically can contact them, but you would want to contact them if you are a dispatcher and you want to contact a shipper for your carrier. My suggestion is I would wait until you have a fleet. If you're dispatching for a carrier who has a fleet of trucks, I wouldn't want to. So if I'm a shipper and you're a dispatcher, you're calling me, you're saying, hey, I'm a logistics manager or logistics person for a trucking company. You know, the first thing I'm gonna do as a shipper and ask you this, because this is what shippers look for: capacity. Shippers look for a lot of assets. A shipper is not going to give you any time of day with one truck, because shippers have multiple shipments to move frequently. So if you call me a shipper with one truck, I'm gonna laugh at you. I'm like, look, I apologize, I didn't mean to laugh, but you only have one truck, sir or ma'am. You can't do nothing for me. Now, if you had a fleet of 20 trucks or 30 trucks, even if you were dispatching for 10 to 20 trucks and they were different carriers, one carrier has 10 assets or 10 trucks, another carrier has 5, and a third carrier has 6. So you add those up about 15, 20, right? Now, you don't tell the shipper that, you just tell them that you have 20 assets, right?
Okay.
And then go from there. And you are the logistics manager for these assets, a fleet of trucks. You never say you are a dispatcher. So there's a thin line that you have to deal with shippers, unless you know this person, right? But there's a thin line. But you never, I don't want to say don't call the shippers, but you don't call the shippers unless you have something to offer them. If you can offer them anything 5, 10, 15, or 20 assets or trucks and an asset is a truck or a trailer, right? Trucks and trailers, those are assets, right? Or what they call capacity. I'm a shipper. I need capacity because my customer needs me to ship them 20 shipments this week from Norfolk, Virginia to Atlanta, Georgia. Can you help me? Well, you're calling with one truck. You can't help me. But if you're calling with a fleet, then we can continue this conversation and see where it leads to, right? So keep that in mind when you are entertaining the thought of calling a shipper, right? So I'm assuming you're trying to call the shipper because you're trying to bypass these brokers who are giving you guys bad deals at this point.
Yes, sir. And also the load board, since they're lowballing us right now. I was trying to, go straight to the horse. But that was part of my question too, the terminology I should use. So logistics manager, I know now to use that.
Right. Yeah, logistics manager for a trucking company, for a fleet, but before you pick that phone up and call any shipper, you got to make sure that you have something prepared for them.
Yes, sir. And my last thing, and I'm gonna get out of everybody's way, I wanted to ask you, because I know you and LaDonna have both mentioned people that can help us get our website together and our email information. As much as I use computers, I'm so green on that portion. So if I could get that information just in your leisure, and I hope your wife and family are fine. And I'm done.
Okay, no problem. So as far as the website, I have my web people I'm paying them $85 an hour.
Yes.
So mine's is kind of more, but I'm using the Wix.com platform. So if you can use Wix.com and set up a basic free Wix.com website prior to purchasing a domain from them, or anybody like GoDaddy or Bluehost or whoever. You can use their free version of their website, but it's going to have all this in the URL. It's going to have your website name, lindab.com/ and then Wix site, blah, 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 right? Until you purchase a domain where it only has your name in the domain.
Okay.
Right. But you can at least get the free version of a website and play with the editor until you get. Now, I'm assuming you want to have a dynamic website as opposed to a static website. A static website is just one page and it does nothing. It doesn't move around or anything like that. If you notice on my website, if I click something else, it goes over here, goes over here. That's dynamic. It's moving all over the place and it's coming back around. It's moving. Right?
That's what I want.
Right. Yes, as opposed to a static page. It's just one page with just information on it. So I would suggest Wix.com. I would reach out to Who is that, LaDonna? Is that, I think Bridget does websites. Yeah, okay, LaDonna just posted. So
Thank you.
she just
Thank you,
posted
Donna.
Rodney.
Thank
Rodney
you,
does
Rodney.
the graphic design stuff, and then Bridget. So we have we have students who are enrolled in our course but have other skill sets that we can
Yes.
inter-network amongst each other, for assistance. So reach out to
Yes.
them, let them know that
Thank
you are in Exodus training, and go from there.
I appreciate it. And thank you again, LaDonna.
Okay. Mo Low was next. I see you, Stanley. Mo Low, can you unmute yourself?
Good morning, everybody.
Yes, sir.
My question is, if this industry is so lucrative, why is it considered high risk?
Great question. What now? Let me circle back. Let me circle back on you. What are your thoughts on that? What do you think? Why do you think it's high risk? Where's the risk at? Where do you see the risk? And what industry are you talking about? Are you speaking generally about transportation? Are you speaking only dispatching? Are you talking about trucking? Are you talking about freight brokering? Which one are you speaking
of? I'm talking about transportation in general.
Okay, so then to answer, yes, the transportation industry is lucrative. You have to find your niche in that lucrativeness, right? So in transportation, there are different modes of transportation, right? You have trucking, you have the rail, you have air freight, and you have sea, the cargo ships, right?
Right.
Across those four modes, it's over $1 trillion annually, right? Now, you are in this class because you have chosen the easiest, less expensive entry point into the industry, which is dispatching. It doesn't require an authority. All you have to do is set up a business license, get your contracts together with the people you're going to be contracting with, which are the truck drivers. And if they agree for you to be their dispatcher, now you have to find loads for them, starting out, not completely, but starting out with the load boards and deal with freight brokers. So you're coming in on the low end financial entry point. So you're going to be dealing with a lot of low hanging fruit, if you will. So, but if you were to involve yourself in freight brokering, if you were to involve yourself in customs brokering, air freight and things like that, you will start to see this broad and granulose picture of the industry. So, but right now you are in dispatching. So, but don't let that discourage you. This industry is a huge industry. It is recession proof. It is pandemic proof, right? Because if the trucks shut down, if all the trucks stopped and didn't deliver any freight, if all the manufacturers stopped producing the products to be delivered, if the airlines shut down the air freight transport and the ocean lines, what would happen to the country?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
You see what I'm saying? The economy would crash because goods and services drive the economy. Commerce drives the economy, right? Businesses exchanging goods for fees and services for a profit, that drives the economy. If I'm a manufacturer and I stop making goods that people request or need, like food, water, different food items, if farmers stop producing those, if they shut down their harvest and didn't harvest their crops and didn't deliver those crops to the stores or to the manufacturer to be produced in various products, the economy will crash, right? Now, this is an overall picture. Now let's drill down to your specific niche or here. Let's drill down to here. Dispatching. A dispatcher, someone who contracts with a truck driver to find freight, something out there to deliver, to put on their trailers, to transport from those shipping facilities safely and securely to those receiving facilities for a fee. That's what you do. That's what you will be doing as a dispatcher, right? So you're in the easiest entry point in this industry, transportation, dispatching. The next line is trucking, freight brokering, customs brokering. Then you're getting into all the big boys now, which I'll be here all day explaining it. But this is the easiest entry point. So I hear what you're saying, and I know it exists, but the industry, believe you me, this industry is not going anywhere. This is one of the most profitable industries overall, transportation. Now, it may not look like it now because you're in freight broker. I mean, you're in dispatching, and you see that the carriers are saying that the rates are down. They're starting to come around a little bit, but they're down right now. In other words, the brokers are not paying enough to the trucks, or the broker's argument may be that the customers, the shippers who give the brokers the loads to broker to the trucks, are not giving them at a fair target rate, right? So, but it's gonna, so we have seasons. We have slow seasons and we have, busy seasons, right? So we're coming out of the back end of the slow season, coming into a busy season towards the late spring, early summer periods where things are going to be moving into the holidays. Okay. So you have to, as a dispatcher, as a trucker, as a freight broker, you have to follow the trends of the market in the profession that you're in, right? If you want to be a more well-rounded expert, or even not even an expert, but a more well-rounded person in your field, whether it's dispatching, trucking, or freight brokering. A good way to do that is tune into a few publications, right? One of which is called Transport Topics, and I will show you that just to put you on to that. This keeps you abreast of the industry so that you can have a leg up. And you'd be surprised how many people do not subscribe to certain things, right? So Transport Topics, the #1 leader in trucking and freight news. I'm going to copy and paste this in the chat so you guys can have it. And just read through it. Like, you know how we watch ESPN and sports? We know all the NBA teams. We know all the rap lyrics on these rap songs that ain't paying none of our bills, right? But we're in an industry that we have publications that can make us experts in our industry to provide for our families, and we don't want to take the time to study that. That boggles my mind. I don't know about you guys. That boggles my mind. So it's just not logical to me. So, but I know every NBA team, the player, their family, how many kids they got, how many baby mamas, all this other crap.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Stuff
I
that's
can't
useful.
do with that either. Watching somebody make 100 times more money than you just sitting in the
Listen,
I'm a stationary engineer at Blue Apron, so I pretty much, while I'm following your content, my control room, I'm able to see shipping and receiving. So it's constantly trucks going in and out. I'm in New Jersey, so
Oh yeah.
I'm near like a lot of truck routes, things like that. I just can't understand or wrap my mind around why would a lot of people or lenders or whatever you want to call it will say that trucking is a high risk industry as far as like getting a business loan, anything like that, when it's constantly cargo moving everywhere across the globe.
So I don't know what person told you that. So it could be based off of that specific individual case studies person's credit. Everybody has an individual situation as it relates to why they can't get a specific loan. It could be credit, it could be past history where they're not paying things back. But overall, I can't see that as being a reason, why that is. So, but so in that specific example, what you just said, that is a case by case basis. That's not the broad spectrum of why the trucking industry is high risk. There are several factors that make the trucking industry high risk, right? Drivers are kind of up there because you got certain drivers' behavior that is crazy. The #1 thing in the trucking industry that is very big, and it's in the name of the governing body of the trucking industry, Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. So the biggest thing in the trucking industry is what? Safety.
Right.
Safety is huge. That's why we have compliance. That's why we have DOT physicals. That's why we have alcohol consortiums, because they want to make sure that this driver is competent and not inebriated enough to pick this freight up on time, transport it securely, and deliver it on time without any damage, claims, or anything like that, overs, shorts, and damages. So safety is a huge thing in the transportation industry. So DOT, Department of Transportation, which is federal, and the FMCSA, Federal Motor Carriers Safety Administration, which is federal, emphasize this enough in such a way that if you violate any of their statutes, you will be put out of service. So those are important. Hopefully I answered your question, Bolo.
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
You did.
Shiara.
Peace, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. I think I have two questions today. The first one, while you were answering Linda's question, you said you have to have a packet prepared for the shipper if you decide to contact them. And I wanted to know what goes into that packet. Secondly, I wanted to check about what goes into fleet management. Yeah, that's my daughter.
That's okay. She has a question too, apparently. But so the first part of your question about the packet. So the packet only applies with brokers contacting shippers, not the dispatchers. When you, as a dispatcher, when you contact a shipper and you ask them for shipments and you say you have a fleet of trucks, they are going to specifically give you if you guys come into an understanding, they're going to do what's called tender. They're going to tender freight to you. They're going to give you a load tender with a target rate on it. What they say, hey, this is either negotiable or non-negotiable. Let's say they have 10 shipments that they need to move this week. And they say each shipment pays $5,000 going from Cleveland, Ohio to St. Louis, Missouri, or whatever the numbers is, right? And that's a good rate, actually. That's not far for $5,000. So, and you say, okay, well, I got capacity for you. I got 15 trucks. You only need 10 shipments moved, so I can give you 10 trucks. I can either drop my trailers there and you load them later, and I come pick them up later, or we can do what's called live loads. And you guys discuss that, and I don't want to get too deep in the process, but that could be a conversation, right? So the shipper says, okay, we come to an agreement. Let me send you over this tender that shows the rate that we agreed to, $5,000, and all the details of the shipment, the weight, the commodity, where it's going. Are there any other stops along the way, or is it a straight through one-and-one in that tender? And then when you get that tender as a dispatcher representing your trucking company with that fleet, you guys decide to either accept or reject the tender. Accepting it, or sign it, rejecting it. If you sign and accept it, then you are responsible now to provide the assets that they require, the 10 dry vans, flatbeds, or reefers, or whatever equipment type that they wanted to put their commodity or their freight or their goods on the trailers of, okay? That is directly with trucking companies, that's how it works. Now, if you're dealing with a freight broker, now there is a broker-shipper contract or a broker-shipper agreement, and the shipper may ask the broker to send over their packet because the shipper needs to vet the broker to see if they are a broker. Some of the things that they require of the broker, they need to see a copy of their broker license to say, hey, if you are who you say you are, I need to verify that. So your broker authority verifies it. You know, now you don't have to send your bond because the fact that you have a broker license entails that you have a bond, because a bond is one of the requirements to have a license. So you don't have, so that'll be redundant to send a bond and your license. That's what I'm saying. And there are other things that need to be sent as well, but that's how it works between the shipper and the dispatcher under a trucking company, which would be you if you're representing, you know, fleet. And then you also mentioned about fleet management. It depends on what area in fleet management are you trying to deal with the overall concept of fleet management? You're keeping track of the maintenance, the PMs, you're keeping track of the fuel costs, you're keeping track of passing out fuel cards, you're keeping track of making sure the drivers do their physicals on time, making sure the drivers do their drug tests, what else? DOT physicals, fleet management. You're managing the fleet from the driver's perspective as well as the truck's perspective. Is that what you're saying?
Well, when I was trying to look at other dispatch companies' websites to kind of give me an idea on what I should put, I've seen that a couple of times, and I just was like wondering what that meant.
Okay, so as new, let me offer a suggestion not only to you but to others who, especially who are new dispatchers starting out. If you can afford to, do not offer those added services that you may not be able to perform yet. Only focus on dispatching for your trucks until you get to a point where you're comfortable with adding other services for those drivers, right? So just finding them loads, just get paid for your service of dispatching, finding loads on the load boards, and maybe even eventually to the from the shippers, from the brokers first on the load boards and then to the shippers. Focus on that first. Get that down to almost to a point of automation until you're used to doing it. Maybe getting your drivers under consistent or dedicated freight, and then entertain later on as time passes and your business grows and progresses. Think about adding those added services and added revenue. Right now, and this is only if you are brand new and you know nothing about dispatching and you're trying to learn dispatching only, then don't put too many eggs in that one basket, right? Focus on what you came into the industry as first before you venture off and do other services, okay? Big Sid, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, got your hand raised.
Yeah. How you doing, Charles?
Yes.
So I guess me and my partner bought a box truck. We want to add more box trucks on, so we started doing our own dispatching. A lot of things they don't tell you, like, you need 3 months
Really?
before anybody's actually going to book you for anything, pretty much, except for Amazon. So we got Amazon at night. We're booking our truck during the daytime, and it seemed like we were doing okay, and then we run into a kind of a rough patch where we weren't able to dispatch our truck during the day and still be able to get back at night to do the Amazon runs, right? So using the 3 load boards, we just literally were not able to find anything. But I guess ultimately what we like to get is like a dedicated route for this truck during the day so that we can start on our next truck.
Okay.
Any suggestions?
Box trucks. Where are you located with your box truck company?
We're in Los Angeles, and we're dispatching between Los Angeles and San Diego.
So that was my next question. How far out? Are you regional? Are you in the same state? Are you regional? Are you over the road with the box truck?
No, we're trying to be local, kind of regional, maybe at the most.
Okay, so I'm assuming you only have a DOT, or do you have an MC number?
We have an MC and a DOT.
Okay. Are you and you got Amazon at night, and you want to, Amazon runs you at night wherever they run you at, and then you want to have something to run during. Have you reached out to local LTL manufacturers, distributors in your area to see if they can give you some freight on the box truck? Are you CDL or non-CDL?
Non-CDL.
Okay, so it's 10,000 or less in the box.
Right.
Yeah, have you reached out to local distributors in your area to try to go directly to them and contract with them and say, hey, and how many box trucks you got or you have?
Just one for now. We're trying to scale that though.
Okay. How is the Amazons? Because I know they have a terrible performance matrix if you don't do certain things, Oh, you laughing? Well, it must be true. Okay. All right.
Amazon does okay, man. They really set you up to fail, but we've learned some workarounds to keep things moving, and so we're able to book runs. San Diego is a good market for Amazon. It pays more than all the other markets, between Los Angeles and even Northern California. So we're trying to dispatch out of San Diego recently. Seems to be going pretty well for Amazon. So no problems with Amazon. It's really that we're having a really tough time with these day runs. That's the struggle.
So let me offer a suggestion to you. Now, these are not the conventional load board types where they have a posted rate by a freight broker. These load boards are more like you have to bid on the freight. Have you heard of Select This or My Virtual Fleet?
Yes, I signed up for those yesterday, I think.
So has Sam from My Virtual Fleet reached out to you with a Zoom demo yet?
Not yet, no.
Okay, he probably will. He's going to show you. He's going to ask you for your zip code. He's going to put it in his system in the Zoom demo and show you all these loads popping up, and you're going to get a ton of emails and you have to bid on these loads, right? And you may have someone else who wants to bid on that same load, a competitor who may want to bid on that load. You guys bid the same rate. So whoever wins that load is the one who can pick it up the quickest. Like you may be an hour away, they may be 2 hours away. Well, you're going to get it because you can get to it sooner, that freight, right? He has a pricing matrix where you can bid, and he wants you to stay within that pricing matrix. If you go outside the pricing matrix and try to circumvent his process with his load board, he'll bar you from for 3 months or something like that. He'll tell you all that stuff once you talk to him. But you'll get an influx of emails of all these loads in your zip code and whatever radius he puts in the system for you to bid on, and then you can go from there. So Selectus is more of a stringent process because you have to have so many fleet of trucks, whether they're box trucks, dry vans, flatbeds, and reefers, and your authority has to be so old, so many years old. So I would entertain my virtual fleet first before I even consider Selectus. Okay.
Gotcha.
Charles, can I speak to that, please?
Yes, Candace.
Yes, hi. Okay, I have 3 customers that I've gotten in the last week, and all of them are box trucks, and they're all brand new, within 2 weeks to 6 weeks old. And I do have my virtual fleet, but what I found with them, they still, the companies do not take new carriers. They still want them to be 3 months old, so 90 days old or something like that. So I'm still having problems with my virtual fleet. The only one that I found so far that will take them is TQL. So I've been trying to book everything on TQL, but then of course you run into, because they're the only ones in this box trucks, I had one of them I sent out from Georgia to North Carolina, and then I couldn't get anything back, and he basically had to deadhead most of the way back home. So it's hard when they're less than 90 days old, and I have every load board out there.
Right. So that's not the only problem. It's hard when they're less than 90 days old, and specific equipment types like box trucks, cargo vans, sprinter vans, maybe hot shots, and maybe power onlys. Now, if you have one of the 3 major, like the semis, dry vans, flatbeds, and reefers, you may get a reconsideration as far as your authority age is concerned, because you have you can hold more freight on your 53-foot trailer. So that's the drawback between a specialty equipment type, box trucks, for example, and a semi. You can provide more space. You can transport more goods, obviously, in a 53-foot trailer than you can in a 26-foot box truck, right? So there's a draw. And then as far as you mentioned another good point with the brokers, some brokers will take you because your authority is 90 days or less, but in some cases you may get crappy loads, or you may get a decent load going to a dead freight zone that you can't get out of, right? So as a dispatcher, over time, you will learn the certain areas of the, and we go over this in our trainings. We may not have time to do it today, but we'll go over in our trainings, certain areas of the countries, the zones that you send your carriers to with their equipment types in order to get out of.
Hey, Charles.
Yes.
I'm sure. I got one more question for you. So at what point, because we're past 3 months now, we're coming up on 6 months. At what point are you no longer a new authority and they start to accept you?
It's typically a year, typically. So yeah, typically a year. So because they figure you've touched a lot of, in a year's time, you've touched a lot of freight, and you've moved, you should have at least done half the states in the union, So do you have a lift gate on your box truck, and is it dock high?
Yes, that's
Okay.
from both.
What do you got? You got a like a Toyota Hino, a Freightliner, International?
Yeah, Hino.
So you got the 268 with the DEF on the side and all that stuff.
Yep, correct.
Okay, so you got a good is it 2015 or better?
Yeah, it's a 2019.
Oh, you got a good truck. You just gotta. I would go to some local. Now I don't know how much labor or how much driver work you want them to do. The drivers, like, I'm sure you got pallet jacks and hand trucks and straps and stuff. But
yeah,
I don't know your guys like to do like mattress firm deliveries or IKEA or what's called cartage, where you work for a freight forwarding company or a warehousing and distribution center, and they get contracts with, because I used to do this for 10 years. They get contracts with Amazon, Walmart, and all these other companies, and you deliver commercial and residential shipments and throughout the neighborhoods. You have certain stops on your route, like 20 stops a day, and they'll pay your truck so much per day, like $300 to $500 a day, and you make that in so many days in a week, things like that. So that's called cartage. When you come to the warehouse, you get a manifest, all these shipments, you got like say 15 to 20 stops, and you deliver those and you're done for the day, and you start that process again tomorrow, working for that third party. You'll be an independent contractor working for that third party 3PL, third party logistics company. So
What do you call that? Cartage. Okay.
cartage, C-A-R, I'm gonna put it in here, C-A-R-T-A-G-E, cartage. And you will go to a 3PL, third party, and 4PL in some cases, because the 3PLs may sub out it to a 4PL, another contract. So third party logistics, 3PLs. So, okay. But yeah, you offer delivery, because that's called like last mile deliveries. You got to deliver stuff from a distribution center that it got delivered to that hub, and then it got to get directly to the customer's front door, whether it's commercial or residential. And then you got workers delivering it, lowering it off their lift gate with the hand truck, taking it up to the front door. Now with cartage, there are different types of deliveries in those shipments. There is basic deliveries through the threshold, past the threshold of the front door. There is unpacked, room of choice, premier, white glove. There's different types, debris removal and things like that. White glove is the best one. You got to take it in the house, unpack it, remove the debris, and install, set up, whatever it is. So you get paid more. You get paid for each step you go up of. You get paid for each step you come down. So there's different price points in that. So you might want to look into that. Now, you may not have drivers. You do not get lazy drivers or lazy helpers with those drivers, because it's just going to mess your operation up. But you can make with that box truck something like that, I would say $5 to $6 grand a week doing that, if you average about 15 to 20 stops a day. Okay.
Gotcha.
So keep that in mind. All right. Didn't expect to hear that, huh?
That's good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Ashraf Udin.
Hey, Charles. I was going to ask, while you were speaking about dispatching, and then, after you automate it, you said that you can do additional services. Can you just go ahead and list a little bit more about those additional? I know you're just talking about it, where if you would have a box truck company and things like that, but just a little bit more so we can get a little bit more insight.
Yeah, so the additional services, so if you're a brand new dispatching company, right, and you're focusing only on dispatching because you know nothing else, you just came into the industry and you know very little of anything. Over time, you're going to start seeing other needs of your carriers, right? They may not be good at keeping their books. They may not be good in invoicing on time so they can get paid on time. Those are some additional services for a fee that your dispatching company can incorporate and offer to your carriers as you bring them on to your dispatching company. You can bookkeep for them, QuickBooks Online, or if you have some accounting skills, you can invoice for them. After they deliver every shipment, they get a copy of the BOL, the signed BOL. It's signed from the shipper when they pick up the load, transported, then it's signed at the receiver when they deliver the load. Once it gets signed by the receiver, that BOL, that bill of lading, now turns into what's called a POD. And that is the invoice or the receipt that they use, proof of delivery. They prove their trailer is empty, and they have a signed document from both parties where they picked it up from and where they delivered it to. So now they should get paid for that, right? They may not be able to send that off in a timely fashion for them to get paid either same day or next day. They may be doing something else, driving or whatever. But if they send it to you, or you say I offer that extra service, you can simply, you're in your office, you can pretty much scan. I'm putting my hand on my printer scanner. You can pretty much scan it and upload it to the factoring company or whatever. Sometimes the carrier will take a picture of it on their phone, but in most cases with that, it's not legible. Factoring companies say, well, I can't really see clearly you know, so,
So
but if you have,
how much would you charge for like invoicing like one document, for example, one POD? You send it to the factory, would it be like, I don't know, 25, $100? What would that look like?
great question. So that's a very good question. So it varies how many shipments they're doing per week, right? If they're doing a volume of shipment, if you've given them a lot of loads and they're doing a volume of shipments coming, let's say 3 or 4 shipments a week, or they give you 3 or 4 PODs, you may charge it as a group rate. If they do few loads a week, then you may charge it as each individual document, anywhere between 15, 20, $25 per document. So it depends on the frequency of the shipments or the loads that they move and how much paperwork they're pushing to you. But you want, in both cases, you still want to be fair, okay? So, all right. Actually, Jacqueline, this information, what we just discussed, is not, but it needs to be added. But the reason why it's not, Jacqueline, is because the module mainly covers, if you go in invoicing, module 4 it's related to invoicing, but our modules only cover just dispatching alone. Now we may add additional modules or additional sections in the specific module talking about additional services that dispatchers can add in addition to dispatching, right, over time. But right now, those extra services, bookkeeping, invoicing, and anything else, keeping track of their fuel costs and things like that, as a dispatcher is not in the modules because we feel this is a beginner training and we want you to get dispatching down first. We want you to get that concept down first before you introduce other services for your company. That makes sense? Okay. I see no more questions and hands raised. Donna, did I miss anyone?
No, sir, everyone's great.
Okay, so let's go back to the main menu. Here and talk about the self-paced modules as new dispatchers. What are you going to be doing as new dispatchers? Well, after you start your business, right, you get your, we didn't finish the business part too, business name and things like that. Then you want to have a business structure. How are you going to structure your business? What legal structure are you going to have it as? A sole proprietor, a partnership, C Corp, S Corp. In most cases, people do what's called an LLC, limited liability company, right? So you get your business name registered, structure, LLC, and then you attach through the irs.gov website what's called an employer identification number, EIN, right? So it's name, structure, EIN, in that order, right? And that'll make you official. You'll get what's called an articles of organization or articles of corporation, whatever state you're in, they call it by a different name. Your official business paperwork, the actual piece of paperwork, once you've done those steps. Once you do that, coming to you cannot be a dispatcher unless you have someone to dispatch for, right? A truck driver, an owner operator, or a carrier trucking company, right? So our first module goes into that, right? How to get the carriers, right? What are the equipment types to focus on for the carriers? Ashraf, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, you can call me Ash if that's easier for you.
Ash.
Yeah, remember Ash? I called you a couple times. I'm from Detroit.
What up, though?
313, yes, sir. So what I was saying was, do you have like I see you have a cold call script. What about like a script for example, if you're at a truck stop or something, just to communicate with that trucker?
Yeah, it's not a truck stop script. I would just say general conversation, but you can start off with the, it depends on, because it varies. When you go to a truck stop, you never know where you're going to see the trucker. They may be at the fuel depot putting fuel in their tanks. They may be parked at the rest area and get ready to go and take a shower. They may be inside the restaurant or inside the gas station park buying snacks or paying for fuel. So it depends on where you see them at to determine how you approach them, right? So that's a varied response. But in any case, You just start a general conversation. You know, hey, are you an owner operator or a company driver? Now, as dispatchers, I advise that you focus on targeting owner operators. They own the truck and they operate it. In other words, they have their own MC number, their motor carrier number. That's what MC stands for, motor carrier, and their own DOT number, Department of Transportation number. These numbers on the side of their truck doors identify these trucks according to DOT and the FMCSA, Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, that they are authorized and legally allowed to transport freight throughout the United States, in the case of an MC, and throughout their particular state, in the case of DOT. So interstate or intrastate. Intra within the state, inter across state lines. So focus on not company drivers, because company drivers work for trucking companies, carriers, and they are, I don't want to say forced, but they are dispatched through the companies, right? And they may or may not be able to find their own loads on a load board. They may be contracted to only move freight for the loads that the carriers have already, the carrier company, trucking company has already gotten. Owner operators can pick up any load because they have their own authority. If they don't work, they don't eat, right? So target owner operators. So one of the first questions would be, because you'll be wasting your time if you don't get this question answered, are you a company driver or an owner op? And let's say they say they're an owner op. Then you continue on there. Hey man, are you an owner op? Where are you based out of? Are you under a load, looking for a load? What parts of the country do you go in? How much weight do you like hauling on your trailer? How much money do you want to make? How much do you want to gross per week? And how much cents per mile do you average, or do you want to average? These are kind of like indirect profile, carrier profile types of questions. And as you're in the form of a conversation, right? And truckers like to talk, right? They've been on the road, driving a lot, lonely a little bit, not a lot, but lonely. And then they get dialogue between people, and you're making eye contact with you. And they see the sincerity and the honesty and your trustworthiness in your tone and pitch and your approach. You know, you're not out to scam them or anything like that, right? So, and you're talking to them. Now, if you go the truck stop route when you're trying to get a truck through dispatch 4, if you are female, I suggest go during the daytime and have someone accompany you, either a partner, husband, significant other, and never go at night, right? Never go, especially alone at night. And I know somebody may ask the obvious question, well, why? Right? Well, unfortunately, if a truck driver, especially male truck drivers, see a woman approaching their truck at night, about to ask them something, they are going to assume unfairly that you are a lot lizard, right? And everyone knows what a lot lizard is in trucking, right? It is a streetwalker or a, right. So anyway, but so to avoid all the nonsense of the truck stop paradigm there, if you're female, have someone accompany you during the day. And if you do go to the truck stops, whether you're male or female, have your packets, your dispatcher agreement or your dispatcher packet prepared, a business card, flyer, or maybe hard copies of the dispatcher agreement, limited power of attorney, carrier profile, which are the 3 main documents that makes up your dispatcher packet, right? What you need to contract with the carriers to get under an arrangement or an agreement between you, your dispatching company, and that truck driver. Have hard copies of it. If you're conversating, especially if the conversation is going well, right? The conversation is going good. Oh man, I would love to work with you, man. You sound like you know, this is a truck driver talking to you. You sound like you know what you're doing. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, let me give you a copy of this. Are you how long you're in town? Well, I'm only going to be here for another day and a half or so. I'm just doing my reset. But if a truck driver says, I'm just doing my reset here and I'm back on the road, man. So he's doing, his truck is shut down and he's resetting his hours of service. That's what they mean. So while he's doing that, guess what he could be doing? Filling out that hard copy of the dispatcher packet, right? One of which he has to get notarized, which is the limited power of attorney, but there are ways electronically, mobilely, you know, that can get done. But as it relates to you, the dispatcher, it looks more professional if you have all the prepared documents you need to give to your potential truck driver if you approach them physically at a truck stop. That is one method that is used by dispatchers to potentially get a truck driver, carrier, owner, operator to under your dispatching company. Another one is obviously cold calling. There's social media, Facebook groups like owner operator groups, LinkedIn. There's all types of ways, right? Word of mouth, texting, text campaigns, email campaigns with different scripts, and we have them in our portal here as examples. Now, these are templates for you to take and redesign to the wording of your company. It's a base template, and you take it and redesign it. We basically give you a head start, right? So now, what types of drivers or what type of equipment those drivers drive that you, the dispatcher, should target first, right? In other words, what equipment type, what equipments are those drivers driving that you should go after first? Which ones are the easiest to target first? Well, for new dispatchers, you want to target the equipment types that are easiest to find loads for, that are out here on the roads the most, and that conceivably pay the better rates, conceivably, okay? So what are those? Well, right here on the screen, 3 major equipment types. The first one is the 53-foot dry van, right? So let me redefine what an equipment type is. So for those who are listening for the very first time can kind of understand what that means, right? So the equipment type is the truck, right? This red truck, if you guys can see my screen, this red truck, it's called a truck, tractor, or power unit, okay? It's the truck and the type of trailer that's connected or coupled to that truck. So the trailer type defines the equipment type itself, okay? So this is a 53-foot dry van trailer. It's attached to this truck or coupled to the truck. So this equipment type is a dry van equipment type. So the equipment type is defined as the combination of the truck and the trailer type, I should say, okay? And we have the specs for it, 53-foot trailer, the GVWR, which is the gross vehicle weight rating, completely, the truck and the trailer is 80,000 pounds. The trailer weight, what goes in the trailer for the dry van is between 42 to 45,000 pounds, dry van, okay? That is the first of the 3 major equipment types. The second, and these are in the semi categories, these are semi trucks. The second of the 3 major equipment types is the refrigerator trailer, or what's called temperature control. And this is one connected to a truck. And here's a trailer without being connected, a reefer refrigerator trailer without being connected to a tractor, right? But it is a refrigerated trailer. The reason why it's refrigerated is because this unit on the front, this is called a temperature control unit. And it's made up of a motor and other components to help keep what's being transported inside the trailer, the freight, the cargo, the commodity, the goods, transported at a specific temperature when that load was booked between you, the dispatcher or your carrier, and that broker or that shipper when you book that load. 0 degrees, -5 degrees, 34 degrees, depending on what you're hauling, beverages, chicken, frozen foods, whatever needs to be kept at a certain temperature continuously while it's being transported from A to B, from shipper to receiver, right? So the purpose of the temperature control unit is to regulate and control the temperature continuously while that commodity is being transported from the shipper to the receiver. That is what a refrigerated or reefer does, okay? And then that's the second of the 3 major equipment types. And the specs on those are similar to the dry van, with the exception of the weight. It's up to 44,000 pounds because you have to compensate for the weight of the temperature control unit, the TCU, okay? And then the third of the 3 major equipment types is the flatbed, okay? And you have different lengths trailers for the flatbed. You have a 48-foot and a 53-foot flatbed trailers, okay? And it's still the gross vehicle weight is still 80,000, But the trailer weight, because of the different lengths, the 48 or 53 foot is between 46 to 48,000 pounds, right? So those are the three major equipment types. Again, it is because, and here's another one, it is because they're out here. If you throw a rock on any major interstate, I-75, I-95, I-80, I-90, you're going to run into one of those. You're going to hit one of those, right? So they're out here the most. You see them a lot. You can't miss them. They're everywhere, right? They're out here on the roads the most. On the load board, which we're going to go into in a second, right? Show you an example of what a load board is and what the purpose of it is. Okay. They're out here on the roads the most. You can find loads for them the easiest, and they pay the better rates. Now, I don't know what is that acting up, because I got a report that was acting up, and this is my first time logging into it. Okay, there we go. All right, so, and I logged into my corporate one. All right, so that's that. And I'll go over what the load boards are. So those are the three major equipment types. Now, the gentleman who asked a question about the box trucks and finding loads, they fall into the specialty equipment types. Okay. Box trucks, power onlys, hot shots, and sprinter vans and cargo vans, right? Those are right there. Now, here is the dilemma or the caveat to this process of you guys being dispatchers. You are going to come into the reality, I'll say it like that because it is. You're going to come into the reality of finding it easy for you to get carriers, drivers, wanting you to dispatch for them who have equipment types that are falling under the specialty category. Box truck, hot shots, power only, sprinter vans, and cargo vans. But you're going to have a challenge finding freight for them consistently, okay? Flip that, you will have more of a challenge, not impossible, but more of a challenge finding drivers wanting you to be a dispatch for them under the major the three major equipment types. But once you get one of those, finding loads for them will be much easier than it would for the specialty equipment types. Knowing that now, you want to ask yourself, well, what situation would I rather be in? Do I want my vegetables first and then my dessert? Or the dessert first, then the vegetables? Vegetables being the difficulty or ease of finding the loads, and the dessert being the type of equipment types, whether it's specialty or three major equipment types. So which situation would you rather be in from a dispatcher, independent dispatching company's perspective? Would you rather be in a situation where it's a little bit more challenging finding the carriers that want you to dispatch for them, but once you do, loads are coming your way? Or getting carriers saying, hey, I want you to dispatch for me, but then you're having a hard time finding loads. So that is the paradox, if you will, paradigm, I should say, if you will, of the dispatching as it relates to the carriers and their equipment types. So that's a question you would ask. It's a rhetorical question. I didn't want you to answer it right now, but I'm just saying that's a question you would ask yourself as a dispatching business and a company when you go out to pursue truck drivers to dispatch for. Which lane are you going down? Are you going down the specialty lane, or are you going down the three major semi lane in order to find those carriers or to target those carriers and decide which ones you want to go after? You may know, you may have friends, you may have family members who are truck drivers who can help you in that regard. You never know. Okay. Before I move on to the load board, are there any questions as it relates to the equipment type? And we've covered the methods, which is right here. Any questions? Nope. Okay. What we didn't cover is the actual, we talked about it a little bit, but I didn't show you what our examples look like. The actual, remember I said when you're at a truck stop, you give your dispatcher packet to the driver if you convince them that you are their dispatcher or you can be their dispatcher. The dispatcher packet contains 3 documents that you need to formulate as a dispatcher. And we have templates to show you here. If you are a guest, you can see that, but you can get some ideas of what you may need to help you along your path for the guests. The first document is the actual contract itself, the dispatcher agreement. Ours is 2 pages. This is a template, okay? What it looks like, you know. And in the dispatcher agreement, your areas, when you give it to the carrier, will be pre-filled out, okay? I'm just showing you one that has everything blank. But your section where it says dispatcher, it'll have your name and stuff in it, where the phone number, all that, email, website, that will be pre-filled out when you give it to the potential driver that you're going to be dispatching for, okay? And this area down here, this paragraph in this section is all to be filled out by the carrier, right? With the exception where it says dispatcher and dispatching company, you put your information in. So let's say I'm a carrier, ABC Trucking, and will replace all of that. This is me filling it out once you've given it to me with your information already pre-filled out, okay? My truck number is 1, my trailer number is 100, my MC number is 12345, my DOT number is 987-654, whatever the number is, they're filling it out. The carrier is filling this out to get it back to you so that you guys can get under a contract, legally binding contract, right? I hereby grant authorization or permission to XYZ dispatching, whoever you are, your dispatching company's name, right? To act as my dispatcher or logistics manager. Remember that? Like in the case of shippers, for the sole purpose of, well, what do dispatchers mainly do, right? Well, search for and book loads, searching for and booking loads on load boards or through direct shippers, right? Process all broker paperwork, and I need to add to that, process all broker paperwork and or load tenders, because you may get a load from a shipper. So I need to add that phrase in there because you may get, so you put that in your agreement with the understanding that there's a possibility that you may get a shipper. So you need to not only process broker paperwork, and by the way, remember we was in the ebook section and I was talking about carrier packets and rate confirmations. Those are the broker paperwork. Those are the 2 types of broker paperwork. The broker, the carrier packets or the broker carrier agreement, and the rate confirmations, which officially books that load between your carrier and that freight brokerage, okay? But I need to add and or load tenders, because as a dispatcher, you can process broker paperwork with brokers, load tenders with shippers, okay? So we'll because LaDonna, can you remind me that, please? And obtaining and or submitting all necessary documents required. So I'm going to come back to that in a second. In order to expedite loads and dispatch via telephone, fax, email for my truck in the state of Virginia, right? This is the carrier filling this part out. Again, what's pre-filled out where it says dispatch company, you've already placed your information in this template and designed it to your specifications. What is or what are necessary documents required? So, and this is mainly with the, it could be with the shippers too, but mainly with the brokers. When you are dispatching your truck driver for a load with a specific broker, you call the broker and say, hey, I found a, matter of fact, let's do it. Let's log in to a load and let's search for a load. Somebody give me an origin and an equipment type. We just talked about 3 major equipment types. Give me one of the 3 major equipment types. And if you had a carrier coming out of, where would they come out of? The origin is.
Can you do Detroit with a dry van?
Okay, so in this load board, the purpose of a load board, for those who don't know, let me give a brief introduction to that. The load board is where the brokers and shippers put their shipments for sale, and carriers who also have logins, along with the brokers and shippers, log in and see, based off of their search criteria, what those loads are, what they are priced at, and decide whether or not they want to call that broker or shipper to try to book that load and make that money to transport that freight. Okay, so Ash said, for a dry van, you want to select the equipment, a dry van, a standard van, And he said the origin, which is the shipping location, truck drivers always pick up loads from shippers and they always deliver loads to the receivers. Shippers ship out, receivers receive in. Okay, so shipping out, picking up, and delivering, receiving at the receiver's destination. So he said Detroit for a drive-in. And when you're on a load board as a dispatcher, if you get those types of carriers that say, hey man, I got a drive-in, I'm coming out of Detroit, I'll go anywhere as long as it pays good and you can get me out of there. Okay. It says where it says in the state of, in the dispatchers, that is for the carriers. That's the carrier's state. You're talking about the dispatcher agreement. In the state of, the lady just brought, Keisha saying, in the state of, right? Remember, the carrier is filling out the dispatcher agreement, right? So they're putting their information in and they're saying, I'm giving this person permission to be my dispatcher for the sole purpose of getting the loads, processing all my broker paperwork, and submitting all my necessary documents in order to expedite my loads for me in the state of, is usually out of the state that they're based out of, their domicile state. So let's say I'm in Virginia, so I would say, and I'm the carrier, I would say Virginia. You wouldn't put the state of the dispatcher state, you would put the state of the carrier, the person who's filling out the dispatch agreement. So it's their state, Keisha. Great question though. So if you get a carrier who says, hey, I'll go anywhere. So if that's the case, then you would leave destination blank, right? Because they say they'll go anywhere. Now they had a specific request. Now, Ash, do you have a carrier that wants to go somewhere particularly, or you just say anywhere?
You can do anywhere generally for now.
Okay, so anywhere you would leave blank, or some loads will have the option that says anywhere on them. This one particularly don't. And speaking of load boards, there are the top 3 load boards. The one we're currently in is called DAT, D-A-T. It stands for dial a truck, okay? There are different versions of DAT, okay? There are carrier level versions and there are broker level versions of any load board, okay? The carrier level load boards only give you ability to 2 things: search for loads, because you're a carrier, you're looking for loads, and to post your truck, the carrier's truck, as being empty and available. That's all a carrier should do on a load board, right? That's all they can do. Broker level load boards gives you the ability to search for loads, search for trucks, because you're a broker, post trucks, you may be asset-based broker, and post loads. That's what you commonly do as a freight broker. You post loads on load boards. If you don't already have a fleet or a network of carriers that you already have under your brokerage that you've reached out to, and all of them are covered, they already got capacity or they're loaded. So then you say, well, let me put my load on a load board now, see if I can find somebody else to onboard. But the broker level load boards give you the four features as opposed to 2 with the carrier side. This is a corporate level. This is called DAT Power. There's DAT Power, there's DAT Pro, there's DAT Express, DAT Trucker's Edge, DAT Carrier Select. There's different versions of the DAT dial a truck version of the load board. And this is considered the premier one, the number 1. The second one is called Truck Stop. That's another type of load board. It used to be called Internet Truck Stop, and you have Premium, Pro, and things like that. And then the third of the top 3 is called 1, 2, 3 load board, the basic level and the premium version. So those are the different load boards. Each of them do have a broker level and a carrier level, so that you understand the difference in what features they offer, okay? So Detroit to anywhere, available date, today is Sunday. We're gonna say, let's start fresh Monday. The available date means that when will that load be ready to be picked up? When should the carrier be there? On the 24th, Monday, coming out of Detroit for a drive-in, okay? Now, the next header, DH-O, that is the deadhead from the origin. O stands for origin, right here. So from the shipper location. What does that mean? How far will your driver be willing to drive their truck and trailer empty from where they are currently located, their 20, their current position, to a pickup location in Detroit or around Detroit? The going radius or deadhead miles is 100. Does everybody understand what deadhead means? how far the driver is willing to drive from their 20 empty, their current position, to the pickup location in and around Detroit, 100-mile radius. That's what that means. And since we have a blank, destination, then the deadhead dash D, deadhead destination is blank. You can't put nothing in there. It won't even let you. Now, if I was to type a location in here, then this will become available, okay? So let me show you what that means. So let's say I want to go from Detroit to, let's say, Cincinnati. The moment I do that, guess what happens? Now it fills in, because I can deliver Cincinnati within a certain radius of Cincinnati. If I want to pick up a load out of Detroit and a 100-mile radius of Detroit and deliver it to Cincinnati and a 100-mile radius of Cincinnati, I'm going to change that to 100. It's only when you put a city and state in the destination that the DH-O filter becomes available. I'm going to take that back out and that should go away. And it did, okay? Just so you know. Is this helpful, guys? Just making sure. Okay, okay. So now the next feature is F/P. That means, is this shipment that the driver wants in the drive-in picking up out of Detroit within a 100-mile radius, 100 miles, let me change that to 100. Is it a full load or is it a partial load? And you can select full, partial, or both. I'm going to select both. I can either get full or partial loads to give myself more variety or more results when I do search finally, right? So I'll select both. But a full load in the 53-foot trailer is standard 48 by 40s or 48 by 48s is about 26 pallets in a trailer, 53-foot trailer. A partial is anything less than that, at least half of that, 13 pallets or less, or, you know, less than that, right? Length, if you leave the length blank, the length of the trailer, okay? You leave the length blank, it'll assume either 53 or 48 or less. If you put a specific length, you got a 53-foot trailer, then you put 53. If you got a 48-foot trailer, you can put 48. Right? If you got a 53-foot trailer, but your shipment only takes up 48 feet, you're covered because you got an extra 5 feet of space. Right? And then the weight. How much weight does your in the carrier profile, which is another one of those 3 documents in the dispatcher packet, the carrier profile, the truck driver is telling you what their weight requirements is or are. They're saying, I don't want to haul no more than 35,000 pounds on my trailer. They may, that's it. Or they may say 38. Most carriers do not want to haul maximum trailer weight because of fuel costs, unless the rate, what the load is paying is high enough to substantiate carrying that amount of weight, right? If you got a load that's paying enough to make a profit and to cover my fuel costs, then I'll be willing to consider that shipment or that load. Otherwise, keep it at my weight maximum or less. That's what that means. And you'll see that in the carrier profile, okay? And then search back, how many hours backwards do you want to find older loads? We'll say like 6 hours back, 4 hours back, 3 hours back. How about, if you delete that, it'll show you how many hours search back, because you may have missed some loads from previously that may still not have gotten covered. So how many hours back do you want to go? Let's say 2 hours, because you want to get 2 older loads. They may still be up there, but they may be stale, okay? And then we'll hit search, okay? So now, how do you read the results? Let's close this window of this load. So now you have 471 total results, okay, of that search coming out of Detroit for a drive-in, going anywhere on Monday out of Detroit within a 100-mile radius for both full and partial. If I just say, what if I say all just full truckloads and not partial? Let's go back and edit that. That 471 should get smaller, okay? So let's just say full, and then hit search again, and it should change. and it went from 471 to 423. So not much of a difference, but we removed all of the partials out there, right? And we didn't say both, okay? So now you're starting to understand how to filter and navigate through the load boards a little bit, right? So we got 423 total results of that filter, right? 38,000 pounds or less. And 66 of those are exact matches. In other words, they exactly match the criteria that we put in the filter, coming out of Detroit within a 100-mile radius, going anywhere on the 24th, 38,000 pounds or less, 53-foot trailer, a full truckload. We got 66 of those 423 are exactly matching that criteria within reason, right? And then the rest are similar. They're called similar. So if you scroll down, you'll see the 66, and then you'll see the similar ones right there, 358 or 357 similar. So if you add 357 to 66, you get 423. You guys follow that? Right? So the first thing I do in any load board, if they allow me to, is where it says rate, and I'm going to read this here too. These headers, you understand what they are, okay? But the first thing I do before I read the headers is I take, because some brokers post their rates with the loads and others do not. If you notice, some of these rates are not posted. They just have a hash mark. There's a reason for that. Well, a main reason is some brokers want to see how good you are at negotiating. Others just don't post it. They want to see if they can trick you. And they have a target rate they wanted to post it at. But they get you calling in asking about that load, and you give them a number that's below their target rate. Guess what they're going to do? They're going to give you for that number that you gave them. But they're saving money. This is what brokers do, right? Is it good or bad? Depends on the market and who knows, and the broker, right? It's just a strategy. Whether it's unethical or ethical, it's a strategy, and it's the market dictates whether it's ethical or unethical or not. Okay. So again, the first thing I do is I would click the rate header and put the loads in order that are posted highest to lowest. Now you see it switched. It pushed up in numerical order the ones that are posted from the ones that were not. If you scroll down, they're going to go away. See? So now you're looking at 3,600. But now you have to see where these loads are going. You see that high number, but then you have to investigate this. So let's look at the header. Age. That means how long has this load been posted on this load board? Right? Well, this just got up here 2 minutes ago. That's 2 minutes. This one's 45 minutes, 2 minutes, 45 minutes, 20 minutes, 15 minutes, right? So these first two digits are hours, the colon sign, and the last two digits are minutes, okay? So obviously the more time has been up there, the more stale that load becomes and the more negotiating power you may have with the broker because the load's been sitting up there too long and it has to get moved. You can leverage that to talk to the broker and say, hey man, this load's been up here a while. Can we get an extra $200 or $300 on it to move it? We're ready now, right? Or something to that effect. So pickup is the pickup date that the load is ready for shipment. The truck is the truck type. We said a van. Now VM is teams. VM is a van team. In other words, two drivers in the same truck. One driver drives for their hours of service time up to 11 hours in a day, in a 14-hour on-duty day. They get out the truck. They call that, LaDonna, what they call that? Slip seating. They get out the truck, and the other one gets in there and does their time. Right? So that's teams. You can get stuff done quicker that way. But it should pay a more rate. If you got two drivers in the same truck driving to do a delivery, that's kind of a hot load and needs to get there tomorrow. So they should offer a rate that's conducive to that. This one does not look like that kind of rate. I'm not driving 2,042 miles with two people for $3,300. There's no way on this planet. Right? Picking up in Detroit, going to Phoenix, 2,042 miles for $3,300. Even, I don't care if it does have 20,000 pounds in it, which is way less than the maximum. You got, even if it was one person in that truck, I'm not driving it 2,000 miles for $3,300. So how do you figure out cents per mile to kind of understand the reason why I'm saying that, right? So let's say your carrier said on their profile, I'm moving this load I don't move any loads for no more than $2.50 a mile or $2.75 a mile. So what is cents per mile? You take what the rate of the load that is posted on the load board is paying, and you divide it by the number of miles. So in this case, the second one from the top, 3,300 divided by 2042. And let me share my screen with the calculator. So the rate was paying $3,300 divided by the number of miles. That's what rate per mile means. The rate, the money, divided by the number of miles. So it was 2042. So that's only paying $1.61 a mile. And that's a team load. They got to be out there rabbit mind to think that we're going to drive that as a team, 2 people on that load. That is not going to happen.
So Charles, could I counter with the question? What would be like a good rate for a team on that route?
Double that.
So at least you like $3.20 is what you're saying?
Or no, I would double the rate. 60, 66. I would go as high as 7, 66. But if you want for a team, if each team is, let's say $2 a mile, right? You got 2 people, that's $4 a mile. So $4 a mile at 2,000, that's almost $8,000. I was fair. So I said 6,600, maybe 7,000. If you do 7,000, right? And you divide 7,000 by 3,300, because you got 2 people, they got to split the money, right? So, and that's 2042. So that's $3.42. That's not bad. And it's 7,000. So they're splitting 7,000. So each driver is going to get what? 3,500 to drive that team. Send ETA and MC number. That's the first comment on that load. Let's go back to the load because I'm talking about that and I haven't shared my screen again. So the comments on the load board, when you go into a load, let's just use this example. When you read into it, the age, the pickup, the truck type is a team, full or partial is full, deadhead from the origin is coming out of Detroit, so it's 0 miles, it's in the same city as the origin. The trip miles or the loaded miles or trip miles is the number of miles from the time you pick it up, transport it to the time you got to deliver it to the destination. That's going from Detroit to Phoenix, Arizona, the destination, 2,042 miles. And you can click this link and it opens up another tab in your browser showing the mileage and a map, right? See all this? Detroit over to Phoenix. And it gives you a breakdown of where it's going, the mileage, how long it's going to take, right? It's going to take 34 hours and 55 minutes to drive that route from Detroit to Phoenix, and the breakdown of it, all the miles, the routes and everything. So that's just an added feature of particular load boards. They have that in here, okay? Just so you know.
So Charles, I have a follow-up question.
Certainly.
Okay, so for example, if it's a team driver, do you invoice them twice, one to each driver, or do you send them one invoice for the entire rate?
You send them one invoice, and if it's a team driver, I'm assuming both drivers are working under the same company. It's their company, it's their trucking company. They're just driving as a team. So when they bill the broker, either directly to the broker or a shipper, they got it from a direct shipper, or they bill it to their factory company. Remember, carriers get paid one of 3 ways: directly from the customers, the shipper load, direct shippers. If it's a brokered load, it looks like this one is Landstar Ranger. That's a broker agent. It even says agent right there, BBK agent, right? So, so direct shippers, number 1. Number 2, if it's a brokered load, then you invoice the broker. Or if that trucking company, that team driver trucking company has a factory company, then they invoice the factory company, or they send the POD to the factory company as proof of delivery, and the factory company just wired the money to their business account or whatever account they got set up with when they got that relationship with that factory company. Okay. In any case, once that one lump $7,000, in this example, let's say $7,000 got paid to the through, let's say through the factoring company or the broker, directly to that one trucking company, then the two drivers just split the money from there. You don't bill them each driver $3,500. You bill them that one, the rate on that particular load at that time. And let's say we said $7,000 instead of $3,300 because it's a team driver. We doubled it. Right? This is ridiculous right here. 33. There's no way. Right? So when you see VM, does that mean the shipper is requiring a T or the broker? Keisha, it could be the broker too. VM is just a code for the truck type being a team. VM just stands, and I have a list of equipment types and what they mean. You know, VM is just a team for a van. RM is just a team for a reefer. FM is just a team for a flatbed. Just teams. Two drivers in the same tractor. Okay. Ash, you got your hand raised.
Yeah, so I was gonna ask, do you think that like if you were to negotiate with this broker, seeing that rate at 3,300, do you think that he has at that much space to so that you can counter offer 7,000? Or is that like, I don't know, how much do you believe would be like a cut for the broker there? Like how much negotiating room do you think he has on that?
So I think he has plenty of negotiating room, but if as a dispatcher, as you learn the market over time and you see a load like this, if it were me, I wouldn't even waste my time calling these guys. And the fact that it's Landstar. So over time, you're gonna learn different brokerages, do different types of business operations based off of different experiences from different drivers. And most of the drivers are telling you the common experience that they're having with a specific broker, and it's not a good one. So you'll learn and you'll create, and if I were you, I would create a do not call list of brokers based off of experience of other drivers. It just makes sense. If you're seeing a majority of drivers saying that they're getting the same experience, which is a bad one, from this type of broker, why would you waste your time calling them? You're going to get the same experience. Right? Just makes sense. But I would not even entertain this one. It's out of the realm of possibility. Right? Is someone taking the load? If they're crazy, I'm not. Listen, I'm gonna take. Okay, let me give you an idea why we want to take this load. Let's just factor in fuel, right? Detroit. Somebody look up how much diesel fuel is coming out of Detroit.
Should be around $4, $4.47.
$4 and how much?
47 cents.
For diesel coming out of Detroit?
I think that's the last price I've seen it at.
$4.47. Okay. All right, so let's do this. So I'm gonna put this in perspective of why a driver shouldn't do that. Now, and it's good for a dispatcher to know this up to a certain point. But so 2,042 miles, right? Now, how many miles to the gallon does a diesel take? Right? Does a tractor take? You can Google it, or you may know it off the top of your head.
Is it like 6 miles or something like that? 6 to 7?
It's between 5.5 and 6.5. We'll take the average. Let's say 6.
Right? I apologize. The average diesel price here is $3.80. I quoted you too high.
Okay, 380. I'm making note of that. 380. All right. So coming out of Detroit, because we have to start with our starting point to get a diesel price. Because if let's say the truck didn't have any fuel coming out of Detroit and they got to go 2,042 miles, it stands to reason they might want to fill out. They might want to fill up in their origin location before they get started, right? It stands to reason to do that, does it not? So let's bring the calculator up again and let's do some math. Let me give you a little game a little bit, right? And if you educate your drivers on this, they'll love you because they see that you know their numbers, right? So you said 6 miles to the gallon, right? So this load was going from Detroit to Phoenix, Arizona, which was 2,042 miles, right? With me so far, guys? Right? You guys with me? Can you hear me? I'll make sure I didn't lose you guys.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So now take
Yes.
take the loaded miles on that particular, and this goes to any lane, any loaded mile, any trip. Take the trip miles or loaded miles. In this case, 2,042 miles, and you're going to divide it by how many miles per gallon to that particular truck or any truck. And that's 6. And that's going to tell you how many gallons of fuel you're going to need to run that 2,042 mile trip. Right? So let's chop off the 0.333. Let's say 340 gallons. Right? With me so far?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now you're going to take the 340 gallons, and we're in Detroit. We're going to multiply that times the price per gallon for diesel. And Ash said it was $3.80. Did he
Well, I
not?
looked it up and I found it for 442. So I don't know what he was looking at.
Okay. So let's take the average then. Let's be fair. So what's the average of 380 and 442? Somebody give me the average of that. Just take those two.
410, 410.
410. Okay, so let's take 410. So that's the average. So let's bring this out and take 410, the average, right? 340 gallons to run from Detroit to Phoenix, Arizona with diesel at 410 a gallon of diesel. That's $1,394. $1,394. And that's a team. And they're only paying you $3,300 for that load. Let's go back to the screen to show you. You see how now common sense is about to set in, right?
Mm-hmm.
I got 2 people.
Right.
I got 2 people in the truck. We're driving it, right? And we're paying $1,300, almost, let's round up, $1,400, $1,394, let's say $1,400 in fuel. So after we pay fuel out of the $3,300, right? $1,400, let's round up. We're going to have $1,900 left between the 2 of us to go 2,042 miles, and we got to split that. So that's what?
Mm-hmm.
Divide 1,900 by 2, that's $950. So less than $1,000 for me and my driver. We spent more in fuel than what we both got paid to go 2,042 miles. Does that make common sense?
No.
Thank you. That's what I'm talking about. So even if it was one driver, does that make common sense?
No.
Thank you.
There we go. 4 days.
Well, so what I know from studying a little bit about trucking, if you're doing teams, you're probably like starting off new kind of thing, or it could be more experienced. But however, if you were to start off new, you usually do see around like 50 to like 70 cents a mile. So that would probably be towards new truckers, wouldn't it?
It would, but I still wouldn't. If I'm a new trucker, I'm like, look, I'll just take my chances elsewhere. Because if I'm a new trucker, if I'm going to entertain that for an extended period of time, I'm gonna go under as a trucking company. I'll stay local for a while, maybe even regional for a while to build up some revenue. And then in order to substantiate having enough money to pay for fuel to go to do those long runs, because I know this broker's not going to give me a chance because I'm new, I'm less than 90 days old, less than 6 months old, as far as my authority is concerned. So I have to generate some extra income, cash flow. Maybe I'll have a fuel card with some credit on it or whatever, right? Because I know they're not giving me and oh yeah, speaking, we didn't factor in that this could be and it is. This is what's called an all-in rate. This is an all-in rate. This 3,300 on this load board, this is all in. What that means is it's the line haul, which is from Detroit to Arizona. That's a line haul. That's a 1 lane plus a 48-cent fuel surcharge, which it says right here. 48 includes, so this rate includes a fuel surcharge of 48 cents. You see that? 48 cents. So if that's the case, they're putting a 48-cent charge and including that with the 3,300. So how much is the broker paying for fuel? How do you know that? You take 48 cents and multiply it times the number of miles of that lane. What's 48 cents times 2,042 miles? It's almost half of that, like 1,000 something, right? So you subtract that from the 3,300, and that's what you're being paid for the line haul. The fuel surcharge is this, the line haul. You see, so now these numbers are getting chopped up. So if a carrier sees that you, the dispatcher, you kind of understand your numbers too. I understand your numbers, Mr. Carrier. You're not being paid your worth. That carrier is going to be interested in working with you as a dispatcher because he said, yeah, you got my best interest at heart. You kind of understand what I'm dealing with when it comes, because in trucking, one of the biggest line haul expense for truckers is fuel. And then a close second is insurance, right? But fuel is number one because that truck has to move constantly in order to generate revenue, right? So as you dispatchers learn that over time, it'll make you more, marketable in the eyes of a carrier. If you can kind of, I'm not saying take a board certification exam on understanding trucking, but I'm just saying understand a little bit about your carrier when you are working with them. Get an idea of their fuel costs. So when you're on the load boards talking to the brokers, you have a perspective of what they're trying to do. They're trying to rob this. Whoever put this load up need to be tarred and feathered because they don't need, this is ridiculous. 2,042 miles at 3,300, are you crazy? But this is why they did it, because the market is dictating that right now. See that $1.82 average, $1.65 range to $2.14, right? And it's on average, it's paying 37. They posted it for $400 less than what the average is paying, this broker, because so now they're being greedy. The most they could have posted it for, so what is $2.14 times 2,042 miles? That is the maximum in that range between $1.65 and $2.14. So $2.14 times 242 or 2,042 miles, that's $4,300, almost $4,400. $4,400, so an extra $1,100 at the maximum range of this lane is $4,400. So they're $1,100 below the maximum in that range. And that's how far. Now the broker may have $6,000 in this lane. They may have gotten this lane from Detroit to Arizona from their shipper in a load tender for $6,500. They're posting it for 33 because they want to stay competitive in the market for what the market is dictating. They have at least enough wiggle room to go up to at least 4,400 because the market says the highest cents per mile in that lane is $2.14, according to the analytics right here. So again, if you take $2.14, which is the maximum in that range, and multiply it times the number of miles, that's going to get you $4,369. Let's round up 44. So if I was a broker, I'll be able to give you 44. If I'm getting it from a shipper at 6,000 or 6,500, I'm still going to turn a profit as a broker. So why am I being greedy and trying to give it to you for 33? You guys following this? You guys, right? This is the game, guys. Welcome to transportation.
I don't have my hand up. I'm trying to do that. But can I ask a question? I am truly new to this, and this is blowing my mind. But I understand what you're saying about these numbers. However, so the broker is getting paid to get the load. Then how do I get paid?
So you get paid since you have a contract with the carrier, with your truck driver that you're dispatching for. You're going to invoice your carrier for whatever flat rate that you charge or percentage per load that you charge. Okay. Now in the dispatcher agreement, let's go back to there. See, we were having so much fun, the time is moving along, right? So the dispatcher agreement, the second page on the dispatcher agreement is between you and that carrier. Your service fee, right, is either for your dispatching company will be either a percentage, and the percentage range for dispatchers is between 5 and 10%. So we say the average should be like 7%. If you're new, charge a fair rate. Don't be greedy starting out because you're gonna sell yourself short, and your experience is going to give you away. If you're brand new and you're charging 10%, but you're not giving them 10% service, they're going to see that and not want to work with you, right? Or a flat fee per week. So if you're booking so many loads per week, you could charge anywhere between $250 to $500 per week, depending on how many loads you're booking per week. So you can charge as a per load or per shipment basis at a percentage, or a flat fee for the week for an accumulation of loads or accumulation of shipments. You follow that?
I do.
Okay. So now going back to the load board, let's say, for example, you took this load at this 3,300 load and the broker didn't budge, and you took it at 3,300 and you charge 7%. So you're going to invoice your carrier 7% of that gross amount of the load that was booked. In this case, let's just say, I know this is not a good load, but let's just use this number as an example so you can understand the math, right?
Okay.
So you would 3,300 and you charge between 5 and 10%. So what are you entertaining percentage as your fee as a dispatcher, Jacqueline?
I'm not sure yet. I mean, this is my first everything, so.
Okay, so let me give you a suggestion.
Okay.
Starting out new dispatchers, I recommend to go with the percentage pricing invoicing matrix as opposed to the flat fee per week. Why? Because starting off, you're not in a place right now to book a lot of loads for the week. You're just getting started. So you want to do it on an individual load by load basis. So you take the percentage route. Now the question becomes, what do you charge between 5 and 10%? Well, 5, 6, or 7, because you're brand new. The best way to go is 7%, because that's the middle ground between 5 and 10, 7. It says that you're not green. It also says you're not an expert, but you are a dispatcher who charges a fair rate, right?
Right.
So 3,300 times 7% equals. So if you were to book that load for $3,300, you would invoice your carrier for $231. You just made $231 by booking that load at 3,300. Now, how to do that? We usually add our invoice amount, this 231, on top of the 3,300 and go on the broker side and try to add it to the rate. So we would add we would add 231 when we negotiate with the broker to try to get the rate booked, or the load booked, I should say. We would add 231, and now it's 35.31, right? So now when we negotiate, this is called threshold right here. This is your threshold.
Okay.
35.31. Why is it called a threshold? It's because it is the number that includes what the carrier is going to get paid at 3,300 plus your 231 added on top of that. So when you go back and discuss this with a broker, you want to give them a number that's going to be above your threshold. You're not trying to get them to negotiate you below it, right? So you're going to give them what, 36, maybe 3650, 3,700.
Right.
Not too high,
That
because
ensures-
you don't want to outbid yourself, not too high.
Mm-hmm. But that ensures that the driver gets his fair share and it's not coming out of his pocket.
And that's the
per
point.
se.
And that's the
Okay.
whole point. That's exactly right. That is the whole point. Very good. For a new person, very good. Yes.
Thank you.
But it's common economical sense, right? So you get it.
Right.
Right. So
Well, I think if you treat the carrier right in the beginning, it's word of mouth in a lot of things too. So if you're being fair with him and he's making money, then he's going to recommend you to other people that he knows, because you don't know everybody and you can't get to everyone.
there you go. Welcome to that thing called life. Yep.
Yes, exactly.
So that's how it works. That's how it works in anything, not just dispatching, in anything.
Right.
If you got good service, if you're selling food, if you fix plates, if you cook plates and sell plates in your neighborhood and it's good food, that's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna tell somebody, hey man, that Jacqueline makes some good fried chicken and some macaroni and cheese and some cornbread. Y'all might want to go check her out. You know what I'm saying? Because your service and your product was very good. I'm recommending you. It's the same thing in any arena, in any genre, in any space, transportation, real estate, stocks, whatever. Good service, quality service goes a long way. Someone please explain this to these freight brokers, because they don't have a clue. So, but I think this is our cutoff time, guys. We're 2 hours, we passed our 2 hours. I don't want to put you guys to sleep. Type of 1 in the chat if this was good information for you guys, please. And guests, again, I'd like to thank you for joining us. Hopefully, you will consider our trainings. If not, that's fine. But all right, good. Everybody said, okay, good. We got 32 people in here. There was a time about 6 months ago, we had like close to 200-300 people in our chat. Our max is 300. We was packed. We was having a party. We was doing a Running Man in here. We had the shuffle. It was good. But it's fine though. All right, guys, let me log out of this one. Are there any final questions before we get off? Let me shut everything down. And before that, our next training, remember when we first came on, I showed you guys the under Dispatcher 101, the Zoom training schedule, the calendar. Right. So our next one will be this Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern, right? The 26th. And this is the 4th week. This is the final week of the month that we're having our training. So after Saturday, I'll have a May calendar up with the 2nd and 4th week schedule, and you'll be able to see that as well. So, okay. Thank you guys for your attendance. Very good participation. Great questions as always.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I can be reached. Madonna has been posting my information in here, and I can be reached through the website, phone number, everything. So, all right.
All right. Thank you. It was a great class.
All right.
Thank you, Charles.
Okay, guys. Enjoy your weekend.
You too.